eModels.co.uk. Make something awesome.
Shut up and sit down.
Hello gang, Colin here, Festa 67's workshop, and welcome to part 1 of the Team Suzuki Ecstar GSX-RR 2020 MotoGP bike build. And yeah, it's the Team Suzuki, folks. Yeah, I know. Ooh, I've been looking forward to this one. As you can see, we got the riders on the side there, Tamiya. And what's his name, Alex Rins. But I'm going to do mine as Sylvain Guintoli, folks. Yeah, Sylvain Guintoli, the test rider, because I can remember seeing him years ago at Donington Park when I went up there for a MotoGP and happened to bump into him, and he was a thoroughly decent bloke, very polite and amiable, and pretty much anyone's going to be doing Mia or Rins, so I thought I'm going to be different. So I'm going to use the extra set of decals and show a bit of love to old Sylvain Guintoli, or Ginters, whichever way you want to go. As you can see, the instructions are pretty straightforward, folks. Typical Tamiya bike. You got your frame there, you got your chain, you got your engine bits, the swing arm, loads of bits in the box as well. Now I'm going to do this out the box pretty much more or less. I know there's a lot of detail up stuff that you can get, but majority of people building this might be first time builders, so I want to kind of give them a bit of a crack, because you know, if you want a budget, you bought the kit, you might have a few paints, so I just want to prove that you can do it straight out the box and get a decent result, folks. So that's what we're going to be doing on this one. Got a fair old bit of painting to do, kindly supplied by my sponsors, eModels. Got some mask sets and all of that lot in the instructions. So we're going to have a quick gander through the box and show you what goodies you get. You get a nice colour sleeve in there with a load of details on the bike. Get all the colour call outs for the relevant rider numbers, the decals, and that's the one I'm going to do, number 50, Sylvain Guintoli, the test rider, because without his input on this bike, I don't think the Suzuki would be where it is now. He's done a lot of work in the background, and the test riders do tend to get overlooked, so that's what I'm going for. Nice colour call outs there, and again, when you're doing your painting, etc., it's handy to have. And then you've got your little tech tips pamphlet here, which gives you some bits and bobs you need. Little quick guide on how to do things, how to cut stuff off sprues, etc, etc. So have a read of it if this is your first time, peeps. Keep hold of it. I tend to put mine inside there. Keep it all together. You've got a nice set of decals here. Just clear my throat. Rather suave, and there's the updated decal set is in here as well. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. There's some extra bits. You've got a mask set there, and you've also got the black rectangle. There's a shape in there which is the tank rubber for, I think it's Joanne Mia's bike. It might actually be Alex Rins', come to think of it. It's one of theirs, who cares? But yeah, so there it is there in the instructions there. And you've got bike A or bike B that you can do on this. So bear this in mind. If you're making a choice, this is only used on one of the bikes. The other one has the sexy Day Glow bath mat pads, aka Jorge Lorenzo when he was at Ducati, folks. Yeah. So keep an eye out for that. Just lets you see what you've got in there. And if I remember, the full fuel tank pad sheet is for the B bike. So yeah, there you go. And that is Alex Rins, the B bike. So there you go, folks. Really swanky set of decals. They're going to look gorge. Really looking forward to applying them. So for safekeeping, I tend to keep them all in the bag of goodness, just to stop any crud getting on the decals and ruining them So we'll put all of them away nice and safe. Just fold that over there, Cole. Yeah, it will fit. I'd like to meet the guy that manages to pack these in the bags at the super lightning rate, because I don't know about you lot, but whenever I go put them in the bags, I'll never get them back. So yeah, that's my wibble for the day. But typical. First time, really? Yeah. Anyway, let's move them to one side and have a looky-loo at the box. This is the important bit, folks. So, if you want to build along with me on this, don't forget, there's a link in the description. Pop over to eModels.co.uk. Have a looky-loo in the store. Slap it in your basket, and you can build this along with me. But look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Really is nicely done. Got a nice one-piece fairing for a change, but they still do some of the bits in halves, I noticed. But hey-ho, you know, they're getting there. Nice set of tyres there. We've got a seam down the middle there, but we'll sand that out in the usual way. So we'll just run a sanding stick round that. A nice one-piece petrol tank at long last, Tamiya. Oh, I'm so happy about that. They still do the mudguard or the front fender as two halves, but the tank, oh, so glad about that. And then we've got swing arm exhausts, frame sections on there as well. So yeah, it's going to go together really well, this bike. Really looking forward to having some fun with this one. And I do like the look of the Suzuki. I've said for a long time I think it is the most beautiful bike on the current MotoGP grid. I love the livery, I like the design of the bike, I love the exhaust system on there, the way that's been done. It's really top-notch work. So yeah, and then we got your caliper covers, your brake disc covers, you got your fuel tank, radiator, etc., and the engine block. So yeah, pretty suave set of gubbins in there, peeps. So plenty to have a look at. I'll just fold that up and put that in the bottom there, because I'm going to be in and out of the box now, grabbing bits, because I'll probably build a lot of this in sub-assemblies and see how we get on. So I'll start with the first stages of the instructions, and then I'll probably jump forward in a few areas just to build sub-assemblies, because it helps when it comes to paint. Also with body panels, joining them together at this stage lets me fettle with them in the background whilst we're building with other bits and bobs. So we'll throw this all back in the box and we'll have a looky-loo at what we can start, because we might as well have a looky to see whether we can get something built, because why not? It is a build video. So we'll just drop that in there. And then we'll grab the old destructions and we'll move the box to one side. It's gonna be engine. So let's get some of the bits of the engine off. Now, don't cut tight to the beach. Cut a little bit away from it, folks, if this is your first build, because we can always cut back closer at a later stage. And then you just get your sanding stick, and then you'll lose the nut. So we'll just chop these off the sprues, and we'll gather up the bits and pieces we need for the first stages of the engine build-up. So we're just nipping them off. I'm leaving a little nub, little ear hole on the corner there, and then using a sanding stick, you just buff it nice and smooth, and it just makes it much easier to fit your bits together. Don't gouge it with a knife. I tend to use a scraper for any stubborn nubs, just to brush them back, and then just give them a little buff up with a buffing stick, like so. And that is pretty much the preparation you do for pretty much every piece you take off the sprues. So we like to try and keep that going throughout the build. Saves any unnecessary nubs showing and that sort of thing. So take your time. Let the tools do the work. Let the sanders do the work. You don't need to be desperate dang gunning the sander. Let the sander do the work and just brush it across. It will take it down. Run your finger along there to make sure it's smooth. If it isn't, just go back at it. A little bit of deft scraping. And then just give it another buff. And it all helps when you glue things together. Just makes it look nice and neat. But the moulding on these bits is really nice and crisp. So a little bit of Tamiya extra thin in there. And this is nice and thin glue, and it works on a capillary reaction. Give it a little twist, and then the glue bites. Boom. Glued. That easy. If I can do it, you can do it. So yeah. So just have a looky-loo around the engine there, just to see if there's any other really annoying seams. Now there'll be a big seam right down the middle of this that we'll try and lose. So yeah, so I shall glue it together for now, but I will go over it with a bit of white cap in the middle there and build over the top of the seam, just to see if we can sand it back a little bit. Bear in mind, a lot of the engine's going to be covered up anyway when the fairings go on, so try not to stress too much. But yeah, you know, if it's going to be visible, then obviously try and lose the seam. So just put these locating pegs in like so on both sides of the engine there, as you can see, and then just give it a little squish, and you can see what I mean about the seam down there, but you can lose the majority of that. Just let that go off. And again, I tend to go back at it with a tiny bit of extra thin, just to give it a little kick up the backside and get it stuck. But yeah, and I'm already wanting to make brum brum noises, and I've only got 4 bits stuck together. Yeah, I need to get out more. So let's just drop that in there like so. Like a nice little dry fit like that, and then just dab at it, and that'll scoot along that seam right away round the other side. Job done. Just like that. And again, just give it a squeeze, let the glue bite, and then you'll find it'll just joint together quite nicely. Right? And then just a matter of adding the bits now to build up the engine block. Little dab of glue, just there, and a little bit along there, and a bit in there. Have you some of that? There you go. It's going in there quite nicely, that. There you go. And that's glued in quite nicely. Just like that. Already, like I say, it's brum brum noise time, isn't it? Yeah. So let's just have a look, get some of the rest of the bits over. Just push that in, like so. And remember that poly cap, folks, because, yeah, your clutch will go in there at some point. So, yeah, make sure you don't forget the poly cap. I mean, yeah, you can get around it, I suppose, by gluing it in, but, yeah, having the poly cap in there lets you give it a little bit of a movement. Just lose that little peg there. It tells you in the instructions there's a couple of nubs on the back of that you just want to scrape off. Shows you in section 1 there, 2 little arrows point to it, and just run your knife along there and get rid of the ears, otherwise you won't get the engine halves to sit flush. So I'm going to slap that in there like so. Have you a bit of him, nice squeeze, and yeah, look at that. Whoa, you know, hey, yeah, nice bit of engine. And just lay that piece in. And again, we'll get the glue Just want to make sure that it sits right, which it does. I'm happy. Quick look just to make sure that there's not going to be any big gaps anywhere, which doesn't look like there's going to be. So we can scoot a bit of glue in there now, a little bit in there. Just try and get it down that channel a bit more. Let's put a bit of white cap in there, just to give that a bit more of a surface there. The extra thin works, but a little bit of a gap there on there, and I just want to try and fill a little bit of it with a white cap before I go too far along. There you go. That's better. Look at that. Whoa. Hey, you want to take that out for dinner, don't you, folks? Yeah, I know. So we'll just put that down. Let that start curing. And then we can do the rocker box. And again, peeps, it's just a matter of dropping these off the same way as I showed you earlier. Leave it a little bit away from the surface and then sand the knobs down. Now again on this, there's a couple of little bits that you need to run the knife along just to get rid of them, because you don't need these little bits here. So I'm going to nip them off like so, and then grab me scraper and smooth them off like that. Okay folks, have you a bit of that. And that's a little Citadel scraper that I'm using there for those that wonder. And then just deftly go across it with the sander. Just like that. Just scuff the edges a little bit. There you go. And then we can glue that on as well. And that's pretty much the denubbing process, peeps. Just keep doing that all the way through. Just like that. And again, just check the fit before you glue it. Make sure you got it on the right way round. Like so. I'll just quickly run the sander along that surface, just to knock back a couple of little bits that are sitting a bit proud. There you go. Gently does it along them edges, and then just quickly run the sander across the top there, and it should sit a bit better now. So just smooth that off, and then get me buffer, just run it along there like so. We just carry on sanding there along the base of the engine, just working our way around the edges, just to try and get that down as much as I can. And then I'll bung a little bit of white cap glue over some of the more prominent seam, just working myself along there in like a little dot of blobs. And then once that goes off, that will sit slightly proud of the seam. And then we can come back at that with a sanding stick and try and lose as much of that seam as possible. So that's what I tend to do on mine. So we'll let that do its thing, and hopefully we can get the majority of that seam gone. There's a little tiny bit just there, so just try and put a blob in there, just to try and lose that as well. Like I say, once the exhaust is threading round the block there, you probably won't see a lot of that, but yeah, we know it's there, don't we? Yeah, so the bane of our life, seams, but we can get rid of them. Just takes a little bit of time and effort, folks. So we'll just grab these bits and bobs and start putting them on. This is the rocker box that we want to put on place, so we'll just run a bit of the white cap glue along there, just brush it across ways so that it sits in the recess, and then when we squish this down and add a bit of extra thin, it should then give it a bit more purchase and a bit more of a bite. So that's what we're trying to do, is get that to sit in situ, and then we can just squish that down then, making sure that it locates nicely. And we just give that a bit of a press, and then we can do the same with the sump here. Just lose any of the little raised nibbage. Get that off with a sanding stick, give it a buff, and it feels nice and smooth. And then we just do a quick dry fit, just to see how that's looking. But you can see what I mean about that white cap on that seam there. It's just beginning to dry off and sit nice and proud, so we should be able to come back at that later. So we'll just check the orientation of the sump just to make sure that it's sitting right, and then we can glue that in place like that. Nice bit of extra fin around the sides there, like so. And then let the capillary reaction do the work. Give that a little bit more along that back edge there, like that. There you go. Yeah. And it's surprising when you do a lot of these bikes that you start to see the little differences in design that the manufacturers have with their engine blocks, and that is really quite interesting. You know, some of them use the inline 4 like this one, others use the V4. It's just strange how different manufacturers have gone down a different route, and yet the MotoGP bikes on circuit are so close together. So yeah, it is interesting to see the two different engineering philosophies. But yeah, so we'll put that to one side and let that start going off, and then we can start getting a few more bits and bobs going. Start getting some of these smaller auxiliary components in place on the engine. Give that a nice little buff. Work our way along the edge. Go back at that actually with a sander, I think. Just see a couple of little bits there that I'm not happy with. So I'd rather do it at this stage and get all the small components nice and smooth. It saves me having to do it again at a later date. And then this will close off the back part of the engine then. And then we can get ready then to do the next stages. And we'll just spin that round. So there's a big old empty void there. So this piece will just drop in there. Just finish that off. All in all, I must admit, I'm pleasantly impressed with Tamiya's detail on this. Again, you can't go wrong with the Tamiya bikes, peeps. You know, I know we rave about them and say how good they are. It's because they are really fun to build at the end of the day. And yeah, hence the silly little squishy hand movements. Yeah, I get all excited. Yeah, there you go. So we've had a dry fit on that. We can now get ready to put a bit of glue on there, I think, and get that in place. That's just another little nub there. Get rid of that. Just so that we can have a nice fit. I'll grab that with my scraper, because I know as soon as I put the glue on there it'll foul on something, so I might as well get rid of it now. Saves me having to come back at it and redo it later. Like so. Now we can get the glue in and get it all in place. dab along there, like so. Have you some of that? Just give it a little press just to make sure. I want to make sure it's joint together, don't they? And just go around any little areas that you think need a little bit of dabbage. Put the oil filter on. Another piece added. And that will become a sub-assembly then. So let's start doing the airbox. Get that off the sprues. And again, these will all end up going on pegs as little sub-assemblies, peeps. Chop that off of there. And then there should be another half. Not sure why they've done that in 3 pieces, to be honest. Must be a reason. But you're going to have a right old big seam going down the back of that. But luckily it dips down into the frame on top of the engine, so you're not going to see it. So, but yeah, once you've got the tank and everything on there, you're not going to see it. But we'll have a go at getting rid of the seam as much as possible. So we'll just try and sand the edges of it just to get them nice and smooth. Gets it all done and dusted, doesn't it? Again, just scoot across there, and then we can have a little dry fit just to see what we're looking like. And yeah, it's quite a large seam, there, but not to worry. Get a bit of glue in there, and then we'll let it do its thing. Just give it a squish. Probably go over it with a bit of white cap, and if needed in a few places a bit of sprue goo, just to see whether or not it needs it. See what it dries up like, and go from there, I think. So we'll have a little check round. This is the top section there that goes on, like so. Just make sure that that fits how I want it to. A little nub in there somewhere, I can feel it with my finger. So I think this is another one of those section 4 B11. You'll see it's got the little knife symbol there. There's a couple of little the ears that you want to just chop off there, folks, and that will make that fit better like that. So keep an eye out for that one. So we'll get the frame halves off now. So we're making decent progress, and we can get these bits together, and then I can get them all ready to be primed up and painted, ready for when we fit them all together later on. So I tend to put the main colour down, and then I'll go around and brush paint any detail areas. Minimal brush painting required then. So we'll get this glued together. See how she joins. I'm going to use a bit of white cap glue on this, bit of the gloopy stuff, just to give it something squishy when I push it together. And then we'll just get the front end like that round the headstock, and then give it a squish. Now there might be a need for a clamp, we don't know yet, we'll have a think. But for the moment, we'll use that. We'll get the big clamp out just to hold it together for a moment so I can put it down, because I want to put the rear brace bar in, see. So I'll just make sure it's orientated the right way round, people. It's like a slightly off kilter triangular shape. It can only go in the one way round, so just make sure. and then give it a couple of dabs with the extra fin just to bring that into place, and then you'll be able to squish that with your hand because you've got the other end there getting clamped nicely. So probably find that's gone off already. Just run a little bit of extra fin around the back of there where the speedo will be going later. Just make sure that lines up, because we got an inner piece that will slide in there that the handlebar and triple trees go through, which is this piece here. And there's a little tab or a notch in the frame, so just twist it until it drops in. You'll feel it locate with your finger, and then just drop a little bit of extra fin and it will scoot around the circumference there. There you go, like that. And you just put that to one side, let the glue do its thing. Right, what we got next? Probably be swing arm, I would have thought. It's the next big assembly. So let's have a looky-loo and see what we can nip off of here. So we've got a couple of little bits and bobs coming off. There's a little under a little piece of plastic that goes underneath the nose of the frame there, just below the headstocks there. And it's basically the air dam that comes up through the front of the frame into the air box. So just dry fit and then quickly glue that into place. And that will then seal that off nicely. Like that. So just run a bit of extra fin along there and then pop that in place. And again, we can sand any of the seams away once all the frame's dried off. Like that. There you go. Yeah. Put the clamp out of the way. So yeah, so already you can see what I mean by the sub-assemblies, peeps. Just makes it easier when you're painting stuff up. Alright, let's have a look at what we got next. Yeah, we've got some ancillary parts there. So they'll just go on clips later, ready for priming, so don't worry about them. Probably do the swing arm then, folks. Get that together, and then maybe jump forward and get the exhaust pipes in. So we'll have a look and see what we're doing. But first of all, let's get the swing arm. Couple of halves of that, and then there's some little components that go on and around it as well, so we might as well get that all assembled. Excuse me. And we'll probably dig the chain off as well, and then we can have all of these bits ready to go. Just makes it nice and simple at this stage, and then things like the suspension and rear damper will build up, and that will then be put on clips ready to be primed and painted as well. Excuse me. So I'll just give that a little scrape there. There's a bit of a lug on the side of that, so I'll use the sharp blade. Trying to avoid stabity. Yeah. And then this just goes on the side of the swing arm where it'll attach to the frame later on, and it just fits around that joint. And again, double check on your instructions that you got your swing arm the right way up, and you'll see then that you can find where this piece locates. If, like me, you've got it around the wrong way, just check and double check. He says, making sure that it is the right bit, which it is that side. There you go. We got there in the end. Yeah. So just locate that. Try and get it in so that I can glue it in situ, but it might be a case where I just have to put a dab of glue on the tip and then just replace it on there, because as you can see I've got hands like a packet of bangers. They're not the most flexible of things, bless them. I am a bit cumbersome with my hands, I know, but we get there in the end. So let's just give that a quick dabbage, just in there, like so. Just make sure it goes in. And try not to knock it back off with me fingers. There you go. Phew. Yeah. Deep breath required. Alright, let's get the next bit off so that we can put the other half of the swing arm together. A couple of little bits and bobs there that go around the part where it attaches to the frame. So just grab those and then you can put them in place as well. Again, there's two little holes on the side of the swing arm there that this piece goes into. Just run the buffer around it to smooth it off, and then we'll glue that in there. And all of the stuff I'm using, don't forget, is available at eModels. Sanding sticks, nippers and glues and all of that. So anything that you fancy, slap it in your basket, and it ain't yours till you check it out. So you want to build along with me, now's the chance to nip over and grab yourself one of these kits. Grab yourself some paints and you can build along with me. So we can have a bit of fun together, people. So we'll just make sure that that's stayed in place, which it has. Don't want to have to curl up in a ball and sob, do I? Right. And then we'll have the fun then of joining both halves of this together. It should go together reasonably well. Looks like it's well made, but just want to get a dab in there just to get that to bite a bit more. And then it will be marrying these two halves together. So we'll use a bit of the thicker white cap for this, just to give it a nice bit of squishiness. And then line these two parts together like so. And then they should pull themselves together quite nicely. Just give it a little squish like so. Wipe off any excess. And again, we're going to go over this with sanders and things like that to try and lose the seam. So if you do leave a fingerprint or a glue mark, don't worry, we can come back when it's dry and sand them back down. It's not the end of the world. We all do it. I'm always doing it. Always leaving a fingerprint somewhere that I have to go back and do a bit of extra work. I've got gloves, but they're a bit too tight for me, they are, so I'll need to get some bigger ones. But normally you can wear surgical gloves, that'll stop a lot of the fingerprints. But just make sure as I put the chain together, there's a little hub that goes in there in the middle. And there's little pins on it, so you just spin it around until it locks into place. And then once you've got the pins located, quickly whop in a dab of glue and she'll be fixed then. And that will be the chain ready then. And again, the chain, when it comes to putting it on the bike, it will just thread through the swing arm. There's a little notch missing from the chain, so you can just pop it in there out of the way. And just put the rear hugger on the top there, like so. And then you'll have your air dam that goes underneath of the swing arm as well. And that will just sit up underneath there. Nice little bit of an aerodynamic piece that goes on the bikes nowadays. Same with all the winglets and that. You know, it's aerodynamics on a motorbike. Who would have thought it? But it's the thing now. And it's developed quite nicely. Some of the bikes have got quite extreme looking. When you look at the Ducati MotoGP bike, it's like a spacecraft on two wheels. It's bizarre, but functional. So we got that bit done. It's exhaust time now. So we've jumped ahead a little bit. But again, I can get these together. Get the glue to ease and squeeze, and then we can sand them, de-seam them and things like that, ready for primer, and they'll be well dry then by the time we come round to fit them. So that's why I tend to jump forward a little bit on the instructions. It just lets these all dry, ready for when we need to do some extra work. So we just want to start going round now with the scraper and the buffer, trying to lose as many of these seams as we can. Dry fit everything first, folks, just to make sure that you are putting it together right. And then I'm going to use a bit of gloop, a bit of the white cap for this, because I want the glue to ooze out of any gaps so that I can then sand it back down and try and get these exhausts looking as decent as we can, so that we can do the bluing effect on them later on when we've given them their base coat. So time spent on this stage getting these all glued together, any gaps filled, will save a lot of time later on. It's quite an exotic looking exhaust system, the way they have to do all the bends and everything to make the pipes the same length. It's quite interesting and quite a technical feat when you look at the engineering that goes into just this one component. I love it. I love seeing all the details like this. And it's been really captured well by Tamiya on this build, I must admit. So yeah, I was quite intrigued as to how they would achieve this. And I must admit, yeah, a lot of the seams aren't gonna be visible. They seem to have gone that little extra mile on it so that you don't have that problem on the build. So heads up to Tamiya for this one. Again, just work your way along with your fingers, give it a squeeze. The glue will bite and start doing its thing. Like that. Again, a bit more white cap there for any other bits that get added on. And then we can add that piece just on there like so. And that's a 4x2 exhaust system, folks. Look at that. Whoa. And then we just got some inner blanking panels to go on there, just to continue the shape of the exhaust. And that'll then leave the end grills to go on. And I think we can honestly say it's going to look a little bit swanky, isn't it? So yeah, I'm liking what I see. Another little piece there of internal pipe, just to close that one off, ready for the end caps. So we're nearly at the point on this episode where we'll start wrapping it up, and we'll finish with the end covers of the exhausts going on. It'll be a good place to stop this episode. So in the meantime, many thanks for watching and joining us. Remember, pop over to eModels.co.uk, have a look through the store, see if there's anything in there that you need to add to your purchases. You know, all the tools and equipment you need, various model kits, whether you're armour, motorcycles, cars, whatever, it's all there. If they don't sell it, you don't need it. Have a look, and like I say, if you want to build this bike with me, the link for the kit is in the description. go and grab yourself one. Grab yourself the paint and bits and bobs you need to do it, and then when part 2 goes up, you can build along with me. You can come and join dear old Festa, and we can build this bike together, make broom broom noises at the bench together, and have a bit of fun whilst we're doing it. And that's the key for this hobby, having fun. So like and subscribe to eModels' channel, folks. Share the love, and I will see you for part 2 of the Suzuki Ecstar GSX-RR motorcycle build.